Okay, I'll just sit down since y'all are looking at the screen. We're going to continue on to Unit 11, which starts talking about concrete. There is a quiz that after you, if you haven't already, you need to read the unit and then take the quiz by Thursday. But I'll just go over the highlights here and sort of explain these drawings. So we're talking about precast concrete framing plans. We're out of steel now for a while. So the same with steel, however, there's engineering drawings and shop drawings. Framing plans are the engineering drawings. There's four basic types of framing plans. There's in precast concrete, there's column framing plans, which is what you're looking at right here on this picture. There's beam, then there's floor and floor/roof, which tend to look very similar to, if you have in precast concrete, and then there's wall framing plans. They're all prepared from guidelines set forth by the architect and the engineer. The information required on these plans is shown on this page 139. You need a plan view layout of all the structural members, mark numbers, which mark number for each structural member, and we'll go through that in a minute. It's hard to see on here, but each member of a precast concrete framing plan has a mark. It's like putting the puzzle together. You need a north arrow, just so that in case the plans are oriented differently, you can orient yourself on the plan. You need complete dimensions, and you need center line of column designations, like they show here. Just like on the steel, you have your column 1, column 2, and then you got your center line going down through the middle, and then horizontally you got A, B, C, D, E. So that way, and that's usually on all the plans, so that you can, if you're talking to somebody, you can say, okay, go to column A1 right over here, and let's look at that. So if you look, this, like I said before, this is a column framing plan. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. Let's see. Yeah. And it's in your book, but I just thought I would put it here so that I could point out things to you. Figure 11-1, right there. In a column framing plan, of course, you have the columns, and that's what you're trying to highlight, and this is based on whatever information was given them. They've drawn the inside face of the wall, which would be the precast concrete wall that you'll see in a minute. Then they have these interior columns. It notes down here that all the columns are marked M with mark 101, and here that's like your schedule. So mark 101, there's 10 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it tells you the type. It's hard to read that, but it says it's a 12 by 14 something. See, I can't read what that says. The width looks like it's 2 feet, and then any other stuff that you might need to know in here. Over here you've got general notes, which usually goes on the first page of any kind of framing plan or any kind of set of plans. If the notes apply to the whole job, you'll put them on the first page. You also might need a legend. This is their legend. It talks about what the abbreviations mean. RC is a rectangular column, inverted T-beam, a double T, a single T. Do you know what those are? Do you want me to explain that to you? Single T and a double T. I'm seeing if there's any pictures in here. I don't see any in the book. Let me show you here a second. So precast concrete usually, have you ever seen those things going down the highway that like giant concrete things on the back of a pickup or a flatbed? That's precast concrete. So that would be a single T. And this is, on the highway system, this is what you drive on, obviously, and you line all these up, and this is a single T. And so that this would be the beam, what they're talking about in that legend. But a double T would just be the same thing, except of course it would have two of those. And I guess you can have a triple T, I don't know. But that's the difference. So now you understand that? Okay. And if they're inverted, it just means they're upside down or whatever. Okay, back to that. So you got inverted T-beam, you got a rectangular column, which is just a square or a rectangle. You got a double T, a single T, and so forth. So let me see. And it shows all these different plans on those preceding pages, and I've got a few here too I'm going to show you. So you assign, well, I'll show you the other plans first. Okay, this one here is the beam plan, and here you can see that it's mark number 20, different numbers, but beams are in the 200s. So you've got, there's mark number 201, which you can barely read there, but it's there's 4 of them required. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. They're the ones that are going to be at the ends. It's a 20-inch, looks like inverted T-beam, ITB, which you can go back to that other legend. And then it gives the length and the width. They're 2 feet wide. And then 202 is the interior beams, and they're slightly shorter. That's why they get a different mark, because they are different. So that's what your beam plan would look like. And you can see the hidden line showing the columns below. It's something you're going to draw a column plan and a beam plan for your assignment. So this is what they would look like, these two things. You have your column lines and your dimensions and the face of the outside wall, if that's given. So, and then the other types of plans would be, sorry, that's kind of crooked, but a roof or a floor framing plan. And all this is you've got your beams below, and then these double T's are going to sit on top. So then when they're all stacked up together, you have a flat surface. Does that make sense to you? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, like see this number 1, from there to there is a 2-foot width, and these center lines are the center lines of the T's, or the things sticking down below. So and then that's placed right next to another one, so that you can just walk across it. Because if you look back on my thing here, it looks like that, except they're both double T's. So then that becomes the floor. You understand? Okay. And there's different types here. You got the 1s, and you got a 2, and that's different because it's in the middle, and it has a slightly different shape. You've got 3s, and they're different because they have connections on both ends. The 1s only have connections on one end over here. The 3s have connections on both ends, so that's a different type. And then over here you got 1s again, and then you got your 2 in the middle because it's sitting on the columns, and so forth. Huh? Yeah, where's that one? I saw it earlier. Right here? Well, that's because it's like the 2, except you connect it on both ends. So that's one thing. When you make your schedule down here, you've got to study all the different scenarios. You know, it may be the same length and everything, but there may be something slightly different. If it's slightly different, you got to give it a different mark, because they'll need to construct it different in the factory. And then this is the wall. So if you're looking at the elevation. So these are tilt-up panels, and then with the wall panels, you can see how you're looking at it again. That's one panel, and the T is on the other side. They're showing it with the center lines, the part sticking out. And then you've got your end panel here. That's going to be slightly different. Then you've got 1s, 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 1s. Then you've got all of a sudden a panel with a window in it, so that's going to be different, and that's called blockouts. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then you got another one. Then you got another one a different one because you're have this opening that you got to prepare for. Then these are shorter, so they're different. you got ones, again, then you got another window. But that window is the same as that. And you want to try to make as many the same as possible because it's more economical that way. So that would be your wall framing plan. But back to the mark numbers, it talks about in the book on page 146. Typically columns are use the 100 series. So if you go back to our column plan, that's why, that's the beam one. That's why down here it's called 101. And then the next different type would be 102, but these are all the same, so they're all 101. So all the columns would be in the 100 series, and then the beams would be in the 200 series. If you look on this page, you got 200. So you got 201s and 202s, and if you had more different kinds, you'd have more numbers. And then since there's not as many, the walls and the roof members are numbered 1 to 99. So you just start, make your sequence and number them that way. And then you can see up here on the walls, some of the walls are going to be the same. If it's exactly the same, then you can be number 1. If it's the same height and all of that. So do y'all see the differences in all of those and why they're different? It's important to recognize that. So the project schedules, which are what's shown down here at the bottom of the sheet, provide a summary of all the structural products contained in the framing plan. The types, the lengths, how many of each product is used, and the various items of the miscellaneous information. Over on page 147, it does show a clearer view of a sample product schedule, and that's what they put down at the bottom of those sheets. And you'll have to put one on your sheet as well. Then it talks, if you go to 148, it talks about general notes. Like I said earlier, those are usually on the front page of any set of drawings. A legend can be on the front page too. It doesn't have to be on each sheet. And it shows you some typical general notes. And then the block out, what I was talking about when there's a window or door, is an opening left in a precast member for whatever reason, a window, door, skylight, conduit, ductwork, piping, all kinds of reasons. And they make those simply by taking the form and blocking it out with some styrofoam or wood so that the concrete doesn't get in that area. But you do have to know the size and dimensions of it. It has typical abbreviations on page 149, legend information. Then on page 150, it gives you the steps for drawing framing plans, starting with the column and then the beam on the next page. And this has to do with your assignment. I want you to follow these steps exactly in the assignment. So the first thing you would do is gather your raw data for your column framing plan, any information that the architect or the engineer gives you, determine the center lines and all of that. Then you would determine the depth and width of the columns, and you draw them. You would add center lines of column number and letter designations and dimensions as shown in figure 1113. So that's on the next page. So your drawings will look similar to this, but not exactly, because your assignment is different. Then you'd put your mark numbers, which designates what type of column, how big it is, anything, each time there's a difference, it gets a new mark. Then you add your schedule and you fill in that information, and then it says on a separate sheet of paper, start doing a master legend. So anytime you use an abbreviation or a symbol, you need to add that to your legend, and then at the end you can put that on the front page. So that's the steps for the column framing plan. And then the next page talks about the steps on page 153 for the beam framing plan. It's basically kind of the same. Determine the sizes that you need based on your calculations of the center column dimensions. Now, this is important. You'll have to read this. You'll determine the length of your beams, because there has to be a 1-inch joint between the beams. So that allows for movement so they don't rub against each other and move and break each other. So once you know your center line, then you can, go off of that half inch either way, and that'll be your beam length. And you'll need to note that in your schedule, and then anytime that length changes, you get a new kind of beam or a new mark. So the easiest way, and this is describing the old-fashioned way of when we had to hand draw, but it's kind of the same with AutoCAD. After you get that number 1 and 2 done, you would overlay on top of your column framing plan and trace the columns. Of course, you can put them on you can just copy it over to your beam framing plan and make them hidden lines. Then you would start drawing your beams and then assign the marks, complete the schedule, and assign, it says examine each place where a beam rests on a column and assign letter designations for each different situation. So if you look back up here back on the screen, for instance, these, you got all your ones over here. Well, these are the same thing, but it's opposite hand. Remember that? So you would, because it's opposite view. And then it goes on to talk about, and you need to read this because this is stuff that would be on your quiz, but it talks about the roof and the wall, and then that information. And then if you go over to page 160, and I already put this on Canvas, I want you to do number 1 and 2, and it's based on figures 1117 and 1118. They had another typo there. It says architect's drawing contained in 1118, but then it says figure 1119 is the architect's drawing, but that's something different. We're only concerned with figures 1118 and 1117 to get the information you need to draw a column framing plan and a beam framing plan. So, are there any questions? Huh? Well, in the directions under reinforcement activities, I typed it correctly in the Canvas assignment, but it says the raw data for the following drafting exercises is provided in the architect's drawing contained in the figure 1118. Well, if you look at that, it says raw data for reinforcement activities. That's what you need, but if you got confused and we're over on the next page, it says architect's drawing for drawing activities. Well, we're not concerned with that. That's different. So this book is horrible. So you're looking at figures 1117 and 1118 to do your assignment. That's all. And then you're going to follow the steps in the wall or in the column in the beam framing plan. And you're going to do everything it tells you to do pertaining to that assignment. Okay? So then you got to do your quiz for this chapter by Thursday, and then keep working on all those assignments and try to get caught up before Christmas. Okay? Let me know if you have questions.